about 10 years ago now, called the Imaginarium, which was a performance capture studio, so using the technology that I suppose I've been associated with over over the last 2 decades now, building digital characters and performing them in films like Lord of the Rings and King Kong and all the Apes movies and all of that kind of stuff. And when we set out our company, we built this studio and a production entity, Slater Films, and one of those films was this film that he'd been working on for a long period of time when we first got together, and it wasn't on the agenda for me to direct it, actually, because we'd started working on Jungle Book, which then became Mowgli, with Warner Brothers. We'd actually started shooting that, and then during the part of the process of it was just a long process of making that movie. I was reading other scripts, and of course, it being one of the films on our slate, I read it, and it was literally one of those scripts that you built, which was written by the wonderful Bill Nicholson. It immediately made me respond in such a visceral and emotional way, like I couldn't quite believe. So I went to the next day and I said, "Look, Jonathan, I know that I'm supposed to be directing films with orcs or animals or weird and wonderful creatures, but I really do think that I really do think that I should make this film for you." And he said, "Okay," he didn't even bat an eyelid. He just said, "Okay, let's do it." And it was a very extraordinary experience because his mother Diana, who, as you've seen at the end there, I know very well. I mean, I've got to know the family very, very well over the course of the last 10. We very bizarrely, when I came back from New Zealand, having just directed the second unit on The Hobbit, and I thought I've got to move out of London, and Lorraine, my wife, and I, we decided that we'd move out of London, and while we were looking for places to live, we came across this little barn, and bizarrely, we bought a little barn that happened to be right next to where all this happened, and unbeknownst to me, it was the very same village, and so it was a very extraordinary sort of weird confluence of energy, which sort of ended up with me making this film at the same time as moving into this little place. So it was a very, very strange thing. Yeah, I mean,
all that pioneering spirit.
Yeah, what I wanted to do really was to create a world for the film to exist in, which felt like you're going to start watching this incredible very uplifting sort of lean-esque, I don't know, very. Like a really upbeat 60s movie where there's lots of movement and music and it's very nostalgic, and you think, oh, I'm going to be for a great ride, and there's lots of your movement, the camera movement, and so on and so forth, and I really saw it in terms of movement and then a total inertia, and that was I suppose that was. And the other thing that really appealed to me about the story that I suppose I was involved with developing the strand of was the fact that they were these incredible pioneers. I mean, they really truly were the first people to live outside the hospital system with that condition. And it's when he says to her, "Get me out of hospital." When she says, "What can I do to make life better for you?" and he says, "Get me out." It's at that time it's like saying, "Put me on the moon." It really was a huge achievement, and something that you wouldn't consider doing for a second if you really thought about the implications. And so it was that aspect, and the Teddy Hall character, again, all true. Everything that he built, and that sort of Heath Robinsonian approach to living life 2 minutes away from death. I just found I really wanted to explore and mine that sense of that sense of it.
So Tom Hollander, I think, is fantastic, and he should be in more films. And you've got 2 Tom Hollanders in this movie.
One better.
Exactly. I'm pretty sort of savvy on how you do special effects, but I'm struggling to work out how you did the Tom Hollander stuff when there's a whole lot of extras in the background and cycles and all that kind of stuff. So can you just explain to me how you do that?
Yeah, I mean, Tom was amazing, actually, and he made a great decision in terms of his characterizations of David and Bloggs. I mean, if any other actor, I think, would have gone I'm going to make this one really like this, and then the other one really like this. You know, sort of try and extract them and make them. I know I would have done that. I know I would have been really superficial and pushed them to, you know, as far apart as I could. But Tom was really savvy and actually made them practically indistinguishable from each other, and yet very, very, you know, you can see the difference. He's such a brilliant actor, but he's also a brilliant technical actor as well. And so some of those scenes, for instance, the scene in Oxford where they're outside the hospital, the bicycles are all coming. We just have to shoot it in two different passes, but obviously with him as the two different brothers. But so, for instance, he was blogs with Diana, and they walked through the entire. And we choreographed all these bicycles coming in and out and weaving in and out and so on and so forth. And then we used a camera called a Technodolly, which basically recorded the camera movement, the same camera movement. And then he went and got changed, got out of costume, and then Claire went off and did something else, and all the extras went away, and it was just then Tom, as the other brother, on a path that was marked out on the floor, interweaving through all of these imaginary bicycles. And so the first pass took maybe 1 or 2 takes, I think it was 2 takes. And the second pass, where he has to choreograph his way through and imagine it all, took about 38 takes, you know, just like just to get. But it was, you know, and then we did various things like we had a good body double for behind, so when they're carrying the bed down the stairs, we had doubles for over the shoulders and all that sort of stuff, you know. So that kind of makes sense. It's sort of filling the eye in different ways.
So had you always wanted to direct? Is this something that has been a burning passion since you were young, or?
Not since I was young, but since in the early stages of acting, because I never really intended to be an actor at all. Actually, I went to college to study visual arts, so I was doing painting and graphic design, and then in my first year at college, I realised you had to do a subsidiary course when I got there, and I thought, I have no idea what I'm going to do, and there was a good theatre studies department, so I started making sets and building props and doing posters for the shows, and then started acting, and then went into acting like that. So I always had a kind of an aesthetic appreciation and storytelling through the visual image. And then I started making short films and writing a little bit, and then I was literally about to sort of get my first. When Jonathan and I formed the company, we were planning to do our first movie together, and which was a small independent film, and then very fortunately Peter Jackson asked me to direct the second unit on Hobbit, and so from thinking I was going to be shooting a movie with 2 actors in 3 locations, I suddenly found myself in Middle Earth with 250 crew and shooting at 48 frames a second with, you know, everything for 200 days, you know. So it was the most incredible experience of sort of film school experience on the job, on a huge job.
But I mean, you've worked with Spielberg, Christopher Nolan, Michael Winterbottom, and Tony Bennett. You know, were you spending your time kind of watching these people, learning your kind of craft, while all the other actors and the traders? Were you kind of on set just making notes?
I suppose yes, I suppose I was actually. I was always very keen and I was always observing how different directors have different ways of working and also different ways of sharing the film that they are making because. Someone like Peter Jackson is phenomenal in the sense that he is very open and compassionate and really values the opinions of the huge team that is around him. And you know, directing a movie is really all about creating an atmosphere for a team to operate. That's really the most important thing. And obviously you've got to have a vision. You've got to be able to take responsibility for the whole process all the way through. But you're so reliant on everyone around you. And we had, on this, we had the most incredible DOP. Rob Richardson, who's made some incredible movies with Oliver Stone and Natural Born Killers and. He did Shutter Island and Martin Scorsese, and just The Aviator with Martin Scorsese, and just brilliant cinematographer. So I was, but I did really love the way that Peter was a huge mentor to me, and I loved his style and the way that he worked, in the sense that when he starts shooting a scene, he doesn't. ever feel like he's got the answers at the beginning. It really is a voyage of discovery, and when he works on a scene and works with actors, it's very much about mining it and trying so many different variations and trying different things, and that was a huge, you know, I thought, wow, you know, I love what you do with the camera, but I love what you do with the camera and the way it dances with the performances of the actors, and so that you know, he was very much a kind of mentor character for me.